I have given over $27 million to charity over the last 6 years, just using this phone. Let me tell you how it all began. My grandfather's name was Rabbi Moshe Holzer. He stood just 4 feet, 8 inches tall. He was a cute little guy with a giant heart. During the Holocaust, he was imprisoned in brutal labor camps in Siberia. Every day, the prisoners were given a tiny, barely edible piece of bread. Yet my grandfather looked around and saw all the other prisoners, men who were much bigger than he was. They were wasting away. It simply wasn't enough. So every day he made a choice. He broke off a piece of his bread and he gave it to one of the other prisoners, going hungry himself so they could survive. One frigid morning, the guards raided his barracks and they found my grandfather praying, wrapped in his tefillin. Tefillin are a sacred Jewish object that men use when they pray, that he had kept hidden. And they thought my grandfather was a spy. So they decided to make an example out of him, and they took him outside to execute him in front of everyone. And as the guards raised their rifles to shoot, all the men that he had fed and cared for, all simultaneously screamed out, "No, don't shoot!" The guards got so afraid that they would riot against them that they lowered their guns and they spared my grandfather's life. But this is not just a story about survival. It's not about karma or what goes around comes around. It's about the act itself, the daily choice he made to give, even when he had so little. My grandfather did not give to gain favor. He gave because it was who he was at his core. After surviving 7 treacherous years in Siberia, he married my grandmother, and they had my mother and her 2 younger sisters. They emigrated to the United States, and they ended up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And they lived in near poverty. But my grandfather, he never stopped giving. Every day when my mother and her sisters came home from school to their tiny apartment, they walked in and sat at the worn kitchen table, and they giggled and argued over who got to put that day's coin into the family's tzedakah box. That was their charity box, that when it was filled with coins, they would then give it to a poor family. My mother passed that tradition forward to me, always giving me a coin in my hand as I went off to school to put in the school's charity box, teaching me that giving in our Jewish tradition is a mitzvah, a good deed that connects us to our purpose. Every act counts, no matter how small. So, how did I, a regular guy, a chiropractor from New York, come up with a way to give over $27 million and counting to charity? Now, the answer to that question came to me in the form of a mystical dream. I'm kidding. I was inspired by a YouTube video. The video was of a man who had a near-death experience. His name was Alon Anava, and he admits he was a really bad person. He lived a life full of crime, hate, and complete disregard for others. And he died of a drug overdose. And this story is too long to share right now. But the message he got before he came back to life was emphatic and clear. That while we are here on this earth, we must take action to help others. Not tomorrow or in some distant future, but today. Tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. Right after finishing that powerful video, I walked into my local synagogue and I put $1 in the charity box, which is a common custom. And at that moment, I had an epiphany. That no matter how much money I give to charity, I am still doing a mitzvah, a good deed, for $1. So I wondered, how could I guarantee that no matter what, every single day, I'm giving at least something to someone who's less fortunate? So I decided to test an idea with some of my best friends. What if we could automate giving so it happened every single day without fail? We set up a simple platform to make that happen. a movement where people give $1 a day, every day, together, automatically. Over 22,000 people have joined so far. Every day, they all get an email telling them who was helped with their donation that day. And they are reminded, I am a giver. What surprised me most was not about how much we collectively gave. What surprised me was how people felt about themselves when they gave daily. Over and over, I heard virtually the same thing. That no matter how bad my day was going or what I was doing, when I got that email with that simple reminder that I'd given today, it lit a spark in me. One gentleman signed up for daily giving for $1 a day, and then a minute later, he signed up a second time with a different email address. And he did this 5 times with 5 different email addresses. And I called him to thank him. And I said, who did you sign up for? He said, I signed up for my wife and my 3 children. And I said, how old are your kids? And he said, 1, 2, and 4. He said, I've already reserved their Gmail addresses, and now in 8 or 9 years, when I give them their password for the very first time and they log in, they're going to see one email, but that one email is going to be repeated thousands of times. Thank you for your donation. And they are going to realize that they have been givers for their entire lives. I was visiting one of the domestic shelters that we support, and I sat down with one of the women, and I showed her the platform, and she burst out crying. And when she composed herself, she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. I can't believe there are over 20,000 people that know about us and care. This is the power of consistent and collective giving. It builds a web of compassion. Another young woman had signed up for the platform right after losing her job. And she told me, I was in a really dark place. I thought I had nothing left to give. And then I started giving $1 a day. And I was reminded that I was a part of something so much bigger. And her story really struck me, because giving wasn't just helping others, it had changed her, giving her meaning in this very difficult time. All these moments taught me what my grandfather lived. Growing up, we're typically taught a lot of different skills. We learn English, math, science, often a musical instrument or a sport. We completely take for granted that these are skills that we had to practice and hone daily for years. However, most people are not taught to look at generosity the same way. We consider generosity to be a character trait. Someone is generous or they are not. Think about this. Every species on Earth is hardwired in our DNA to have offspring, to pass on life, to give. We were created so that we could give. It is the most essential, best thing we could do. Biologically, to live is to give. So giving actually puts us in our highest and truest alignment with who we are in our deepest essence. The reward that you get for giving is that you are a giver. It is the reward because that is you living in your highest and truest alignment. The point is not to give so you can be happy. The point is to be aligned with your true nature. And your true nature is to be a giver of love and goodness. When you give, it changes you. Now, because giving has such a profound effect on us, it cannot be easy for us to do. We face many barriers. Too many causes overwhelm us. Which one matters most? If you find one you like, can you even trust that organization? Does my small gift even make a difference? And then when it comes to money, fear creeps in. Do I even have enough to spare? And as these doubts pile up, the resistance grows. And the longer we go without incorporating giving into our routine, our giving instinct atrophies. The fact is, giving is a muscle. When we don't use muscles, they atrophy. So how do we combat that atrophy? By training the muscle. By making giving a daily habit, no matter how small the gift. The great sage Maimonides says that if you could give $100 to one person or $1 to 100 different people, you should give $1 to 100 different people. Even though the perceived impact is so much lower, it's because this is how you train the giving muscle, through practice and repetition. People think you have to be wealthy to be a giver. It's not the amount, it's the frequency. It's not the dollar, it's the daily. Did you know that when you give, you actually vibrate at a different frequency? Do you know when a friend calls you up and you immediately know they're not in a good place? You really don't have time to take that call. But you spend the next 20, 30 minutes on the phone with them, listening to them, trying to cheer them up. And at the end of the call, their mood's completely changed. Or you buy a cup of coffee for the stranger behind you in line at Starbucks. Or you give your waitress an unusually large tip. How good does that feel? It changes your mood for hours. That is the giving frequency. Every person is here to add light into this world. And you add light when you're in the giving frequency. Did you ever stop to think about what the job of a light is? Light's sole purpose is only to give. It shines out for people to receive and be able to see in the darkness. When you give, you're bringing a giving frequency into the world the rest of the day. And when you give again tomorrow and the next day and the next, you are now fashioning a vessel through which your light can shine. The real purpose of giving is not about how much transfers from hand to hand. It's about the impact on the person it goes through. Mel Robbins has the now famous 5-second rule. Not the 5-second rule when you drop your sandwich on the floor. Her 5-second rule is as follows. If an idea that requires action pops into your head and you don't act within 5 seconds, you almost never will. So please don't let this moment slip away. Right now, commit to one act of giving today. Whether it be complimenting a complete stranger, or visiting a lonely neighbor, calling a friend or relative who you know has been sick, or giving $1 to charity. Do that thing daily for at least the next 10 days. Build the giving muscle. When you give, you are not just helping others. It will change you. That's what daily giving did for me. It brought me peace, purpose, self-love, and a true sense of who I'm really meant to be. My grandfather taught me that the reward that you get for giving is that you're a giver. Start today. Give daily and watch it transform you and the entire world.